It's just a huge honor for me today to be podcast interviewing Nancy Zelno with Dynamic Administrator all the way from Dunedin, Florida. It's a suburb of Clearwater. Nancy Zelno, author and leader in healthcare practice improvement, shares the strategies and systems to help your practice improve. Her long history of creating winning results for healthcare teams stems from holding every position in practice except for the provider, which has given her a comprehensive understanding of the entire practice. After more than 15 years in the dental and medical fields and 11 years in corporate settings such as Reader's Digest and IBM, Nancy set out to help numerous healthcare practices master success by helping them organize their practices, stressing the need to work smarter and not harder. Since 2001, when she founded Dynamic Administrators, Nancy's unique approach to practice development has helped her clients to create effortless and fulfilling lives and to grow their practices using a team-first approach. She has brought her lively, entertaining presentation to consulting and meetings across the country. Nancy was awarded the Manchester's Who Who Registry as a platinum member in the Honors Edition for executives and professionals, providing a vast networking platform of more than 200,000 highly accomplished professionals worldwide. In 2015, Nancy earned a BS in law from Post University. Nancy, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me down.
Should we make this the last podcast I've ever do since your last name starts with Z?
Okay, that would be the story of my life.
We started with A and we ended with Z. I had 4 boys, and the last one was the last one, so we named him Zach. So my boys are in alphabetical order. It's Eric, Greg, Ryan, Zach. So it's EGRZ, and they're gonna have to invent a new letter of the alphabet. So tell us about your journey. You wrote a book. And it's on Amazon, and it's called Consent Workbook. Tell us about your journey that ended in writing a book, Consent Workbook, on Amazon.
Well, my journey started as even in the corporate field and went into dentistry. And you know how you find something in your life that you just jive at, that it just comes natural? And leaving the corporate world, went into dentistry and went from front desk where it was just me and the doctor in an office in Manhattan. And I left saying dentists are cheap and mean. He used to throw things at me. It was horribly mean and cheap. So I left and I went back to the corporate world, and I just couldn't get out of the dentistry. Just seemed so what came natural to me. So as I learned along the way of what to do and what not to do by making mistakes and or by improving practices, we got to the point of bringing together dynamic administrators, because I was told by somebody that we were doing a speaking engagement with, they were like, wow, you're like dynamic. I'm like, oh, great word. So I utilized it. And I actually started the business as a freelance office manager type of position to help a lot of different offices, because sometimes they didn't need somebody full time. So I would go in and work with them on a part-time basis, and then it just blossomed into learning more about the business. And when you said 2001, I kind of cringed because I think, oh my God, has it really been almost 17 years? But I guess it has. So, I've learned, like I said, along the way. And I got into the consent workbook because there were so many offices that I was in, and finishing up with my law degree, I thought, we're not protected. And there are so many mistakes that dentists make, and I think you've really got to make sure you're listening to the right people when it comes to advice. They do leave themselves open to risk in a lot of areas. And I had some people asking me to put together some consent forms, so we put them all together into a book.
It's funny because right now is the time of year. This is May 30th. I mean, right now you're having 56 dental schools all graduate. All these dental students are being dumped onto the market now, 6,000 of them. And how much training in business do you think they received after their 8 years of college and 400,000 in student loans?
Well, I think that's why me and all the other dental consultants are in business for as long as we are, because they're not. And the problem is like I said, I started in the corporate world and in the law arena, but able to bring it into the dentistry. And there's many of them will openly admit, oh my God, I don't know anything about a business. And the tagline to my business is, don't worry, just practice. Because so many of them would say to me, I just want to do the dentistry. I don't want to have to know all this stuff about the business. It doesn't matter if you want to or not. You need to, because it is your business. As a matter of fact, the dentist I told you about that was mean, he had his mom work for him and nobody else. and she wasn't allowed to leave her chair, and she wasn't allowed to talk to him. She had to write notes. And I said to him, I can't believe the way you run your business. And he said to me, it's not a business, it's a dental practice. And this is somebody that's been in business, that was in business for many years. I thought, wow, here's a place for me. So that's how it ended up developing.
And the reason he could be rude is because he went through his whole life being a baby without anybody just beating the crap out of him. I mean,
Exactly.
when I see these totally dysfunctional people, they had helicopter parents that thought baby was precious and they just had to talk to him. Whereas when we were little, 100% of my friends feared their father. Their father loved them, but you knew if you crossed the line, your father would kill you.
Okay,
And
so he said that to me about my kids, and they're like, you rule by fear. And I'm like, no, my kids aren't afraid of me. They're afraid to make me mad. They're not afraid of me. And I've always said, through all the things that I've seen dentists do, they will keep doing it till there's a price to pay. Because some of them will keep making the mistakes or doing things that they're really not supposed to do until there's a price to pay, until they get a lesson learned, like you just said.
yeah, I mean, I always told all my friends when they would whine about their kid getting in a fight at school, it's like your kid needs to get in a fight in school to know that you shouldn't do that. That's how you get better, you know.
Okay.
And I went to Catholic school where I watched a priest one time throw my best friend through a that had those doors that had that little
Yeah.
slim window deal, and he poked his finger in a nun's chest and was backing her up. And he came from behind him and grabbed him and threw him through that window. And that guy was Gary Lux. He was the greatest friend guy in the school. But he learned one thing that day that
Right.
you never poke your finger in a nun's chest while you're talking to her. And yeah, there's so many people that you look at their behavior and just thought, I'm sorry you didn't get your butt kicked on the playground when you were little because that's
Right.
not the way to act. So what if you were giving the commencement speech to, there's some 6,000 graduates walking out of school, and they all start with this unicorn fairy that, you know what, I'm just going to go get a job as an associate, and I'll just live happily. I won't have to worry about any of the business. And then they go get a job as an associate, and they realize that if you're a dentist, physician, lawyer, if you're highly skilled, you can't take orders. You won't listen to what anyone else says. The
Right.
only people that can have 1 million people work for them under their thumb and do whatever they say is if they're all high school graduates or less, or they're all under 21, like in the military. So they all go get a job and they just think, oh, this is great. I'm just going to go get a corporate job and make a lot of money. And then they all find out they're miserable after a year because they're being told they have to do this and they can't do that and they got to sell, blah, 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 blah. And they're all miserable. So after 2 years, 80% of them start looking to own their own business. So I always tell them when they graduate, believe in unicorns, Santa Claus, the Tooth Fairy. You live in the world of whatever. But about 2 years out, they start thinking, damn, Nancy, I want my own place. I'm tired of having someone under my thumb. So what would you advise them on their journey? How would they get the business skills so someday they could own their own place and do what they want to do and not live my life according to what you want me to be, but according to what I want to be?
It's interesting that you say that because there were a couple of times throughout my career in consulting where I went back to be an office manager. For me, it was I want to find out more of what's going on. I want to be in that seat and learn more. But I have to tell you, exactly the same thing happened. I could not work for somebody else. And I just have that personality. My advice to them would be careful who you take information from. Make sure that you do your research. And while you're taking those 2 years in some of those corporate companies, absorb what you can. Learn the good, but also learn what they do wrong. I worked for a dental practice back in the day, and this was one of my first I guess it was my second dental experience. And I learned so much from them, what to do. I also learned what not to do. But I was able to, in my head, understand that morally some of the things they were doing were not correct and how to make it right. I think that the thing is they have to be careful who they're taking advice from and who they're listening to. Other dentists sometimes give wrong advice because they're already doing it wrong. If they're going out and looking for a new practice, Are they looking for a partnership that the person eventually buys out? You and I know how that always works, where they go in and, oh, I have a 5-year deal with the current dentist, and they fight the entire 5 years and they end up in a lawsuit. So there's so many different things to be aware of, but watch who you're taking your information from. It's very important. And you know what they also need to know? Because honestly, a lot of dentists still don't realize this. Your team will make you or break you. And if you don't have a dream team, they are out there. You have to be able to learn how to interview people and make sure you have a dream team. That's the bread and butter of your business. The patients come.
Yeah. I love what you say, listen to who you're getting the information from, because I've always believed that at least 80% of humans, if not 90, they always go to the person for advice who they think is going to tell them what they want to hear. I mean, imagine you have advice. You're a young girl and you have advice, and you could go ask the nun. You could go ask your party friend who's literally an alcoholic. You could go ask your mom, but you go to the person that's going to give you the answer. I'll never forget that. That's what I love the most about my takeaway in Catholic school in the library is I was having to do a book report on a planet Mars, and so I took this book out, and the librarian says, well, why did you pick this book? And I said, because I'm doing a book report on Mars, and it was Mars. I showed it to her, and it even had the red planet on the cover. She goes, well, who wrote it? I mean, what if your mom wrote this? What if your best friend Dave Borland wrote this? She goes, who wrote this? And I'm like, I don't know. And she taught me how you do an author search first, and then she asked me. She said, well, who do you think would be the smartest person on Mars? Talking about Mars. And a little kid back then who watched Neil Armstrong land on the moon in '69 when I was born in '62, and I'll never forget that. I said someone from NASA, and she goes, there you go. So let's go do author searches. Let's see if someone from NASA wrote a book on Mars, because I would believe that guy a whole lot more than your buddy David Hornbreck or Wardlaw or any of these guys. And today you see on fake news, like dentists are sharing news stories on Facebook from like U.S., International, World, USA, and you're like, dude. Well, I mean, look at this source. And then you read from Facebook that 90% of shared news stories, the guy sharing it didn't even open it and read it. It's just clickbait. And yeah, and people take practice management advice from people who've never ran a dental office, owned a dental office. And what's sad is that in consulting, the people who tell you what you want to hear are more successful than the brutally honest people who tell you what you don't want to hear.
I have that problem all the time. I'll go into an office, and it just happened to me recently here in Florida, that I said, are you ready to listen? I was with a practice, because I do mine a little bit differently. We're actually on site. I'm in the trenches with them I go in every single week. And I'm in the trenches with them, working with them, saying, this is what came up. Okay, how do we handle it? Let me show you a better way. And we can handle things right then and there. And there was an office that I was with him for quite some time, an older gentleman. And he says, Nance, this month, the numbers are so down. And I'm like, are you ready to listen now? Are you ready to listen to me? Or are you going to keep reading these articles that really are not pertain to your practice? Every practice is different. There's a lot of consultants out there. Some have drastically different views on things. And like you said, I have a hard time being a consultant where I walk in the door and I say, listen, this is what we're going to do, because then I lose the client. Then they don't want to hear that. They want to hear what they want to hear. So my way of doing business, I've got to find a way to tell them what needs to be fixed the way that they're welcome to hearing it. So, it's a little bit of a more psychology than anything else. But you're absolutely right.
The thing with consulting is the first thing Americans need to learn is there's no such thing as the United States of America or the EU. Like, if you were a dental consultant, you couldn't compare any practice in Germany to that of Greece or Portugal to Sweden. You can't compare Manhattan to Clearwater. You can't compare Anchorage to San Fran or Kansas to Albuquerque. So, I mean, even when they started the federal bank, the Congress knew that they divided America up into 12 different economies. That's why you have a Fed bank in Kansas City. That's why you have one in Minneapolis, St. Paul, San Francisco, because there's all these different Americas. So I always tell people with consultants, if you're in Lyons, Kansas, I would 10 to 1 rather have someone who's done a hell of a lot of consulting in Kansas than someone who's really big in Beverly Hills or Key Biscayne.
Right. And that's what I said. We've always been the best kept secret of the East Coast because I'm in the offices on the East Coast. But I've worked in Manhattan, Madison Avenue, and I've worked in Philadelphia, and I work down here in Florida. Not only there are different laws, there's different employment laws, there's different dental things. Every state is different, like you said.
What percent of the dentists in Florida, though, are transplants from New York and New Jersey?
Oh, my God. As a matter of fact, they're at the point where they won't even give out dental licenses down here unless you already have one because everybody wants to move down here. So they're very, very strict on giving dental licenses even in Florida anymore. So, yeah transplants.
It's kind of interesting with dentists and retirees. If you're east of Mississippi, you're from New Jersey and Manhattan, and you're going to Florida. And as soon as you're west of Mississippi, you're going to Phoenix. So, it's also, I think it's extremely cute in Phoenix, in my backyard, to where if you come from New Jersey or New York, for some reason, you want to go to Scottsdale. I mean, it must have an amazing brand name in New Jersey and Scottsdale, because if you come from Minneapolis or Kansas, you want to go to Glendale, Chandler, Mesa, Tempe. But gosh darn, if you come from New York or New Jersey, you just have to go. You go to Scottsdale, there's areas of Scottsdale where I swear to God, you think you're in Manhattan. I mean, it's just like almost everybody there has a New York accent. So my homies are driving to work. They're all by themselves. They know their world. They don't know your world. You see all these people. When people call you and say, Nancy, I need help, like what is the top three problems? Obviously, if you go to a dental office, the top three problems are going to be a cleaning, exam, an x-ray, a filling, and a crown. What is your cleaning, exam, x-ray, filling, and a crown? Why are people calling you? What do you help? What problems are you solving?
So we solve problems in accounts receivable. Nancy, so many people owe me money. Can you help me with my accounts receivable? But between you and me, there's usually a bigger problem there. So they'll ask me, I'm not making enough money, my team is driving me crazy, or I don't have enough new patients. So those are the main buckets, per se, that they fall into. I don't have enough new patients, but you know what? After we dig down, because I don't just say, okay, well then let's find you more new patients. I have to look at how many you are coming in and how many are you keeping. And even though some of the softwares will tell you how many are coming in, the only way to know how many you're keeping is by doing it by hand. So back when we said Reader's Digest, I was a statistical analyst for their website. So sitting down and saying, okay, you've got 43 new patients last month. And they're like, I did? Yeah. This is, out of all of those, 10 had a cleaning. 5 are set up for recall. I'm not getting you new patients. What you need to do is fix your system so that those new patients are more efficient for you. Accounts receivable, usually it's that the people at the front desk aren't collecting the right amount of money at the front desk. Now we have to go chase it. And I have a part of my business where I sit down and all I do is fix people's accounts receivable. Look at what their patients, I make the phone calls, I do the letters, then I send them on to the collection agency. So I'm willing to help, but why not fix the problem the reason that your accounts receivable is $250,000? So those are the main buckets. And lastly, it's not me, it's my team. My team sucks. It's not me. And usually we boil it down to what's the common denominator. It's usually something in with the dentist that may have to change. And if not, if it is a team, why'd you hire them? So we look at those types of things and we get their team running and actually owning the practice like part of the dentists do. So those are the main areas that they come to us.
Man, there's so many things to talk about. Let's start with the accounts receivable. First of all, I want to back. I'm sorry to say this to you, but when I get on an airplane and the guy next to me is reading a book, I don't have to ask him if he's a grandpa. You just know he is. So podcasters are millennials. So a quarter of everyone listening to you is still in dental kindergarten. They don't even know what account receivables is. Talk about what account receivables is, and then for the ones that do know account receivables, what's smarter to do? To fix your policy or to go chase uncollected money?
Oh, well, obviously the cheaper way would be fixing your policy. But let's go back to your first question. Accounts receivable is when we have patients come in and do their work. There's always, unless it's a cleaning, there's always some sort of out-of-pocket. I don't like to say copay because that's a medical term. There's some sort of out-of-pocket or patient responsibility. Then we send things off to insurance companies. And a lot of times the insurance don't pay what we're expecting, Now it's back to a private balance. So our accounts receivable is the money that's being held by other people other than us, but it's due to us. It's owed to us. So the accounts receivable should be under, and this includes for me, insurance receivable should be under 1 month's production. So let's say you have a smaller size practice, you're producing $120,000 a month, and your accounts receivable is at $250, including insurance outstanding. Okay, we have a problem. Your 90-day column is losing you money because the longer it sits there, the harder it is to collect. And there's a lot of legal ramifications once they get to a certain point as well. So that's all the money that walked out the door that you didn't collect for your services at the time that they should have been collected. I see a lot of people do payment plans, and when the economy changed, we had to change a little bit. We had to be a little more understanding of patients in order for them to get their work done. But there's ways of doing payment plans with either outside companies or us controlling it so we don't run into carrying so much debt. And this is what a lot of people don't understand. You've done the service. Your expenses are gone. That money that's sitting on that accounts receivable, that's your cash. Because you've paid your help, you've paid your supplies, you've paid your lab fees. Now all that money that's sitting there, that's your money. So that's, in essence of what the accounts receivable is. How do I fix the systems is much cheaper than going through and chasing after accounts receivable. Because when I sit down and I chase after accounts receivable, I charge hourly, plus I charge a percentage of what I collect. There are the national average is 9% collections of anything at 90 days or over. 9%. Well, now you're saying, okay, the rest of it, the 92% of what I have outstanding, I'm never going to see. Then your collection agency takes up to 50%. Now, I work with one that only takes 5%, but hey, they're still taking their money. And you should have gotten it before they walked out the door. What about the interest that you could have been making on that money? So fixing those systems is easy to fix, it's quick to fix, and it saves you a lot of money. Usually when they call me in and they say my AR is out of control, we start by collecting their money for them so then that they can invest it in learning how to create the new systems.
I always think it's hilarious. I mean, you walk into McDonald's and the 16-year-old kid, you say, I want a hamburger. She says, okay, give me $3. And if you said, no, just give me the hamburger and then bill me, she would look at you, she'd throw the hamburger at your head. And then you graduate after 8 years of college and you come in and say, oh, I need a root canal. Okay, well, it's $1,000. Your insurance pays $600. You owe me $400. And they go, well, can you bill me, or I'll pay you next week, or I'll pay you next. Hell, they're most motivated to pay right now. You come in my office and you broke your tooth and need a root canal, bill and crown. We'll say, okay, it's $2,000. Insurance pays $1,000. Your portion's due today. And if they say, well, I don't get paid till next Friday. Great. Let's go up front and find you an appointment for next Friday. Oh, but I want to have it done now. I want to have it done now. Okay, well, we take credit cards. We take American Express, Visa, MasterCard. Oh, I don't have a credit card. Dude, in America, they start sending you credit card applications before you're 10 years old. So you're 20, and all these billion-dollar banks like Chase and Wells Fargo, none of them will give you a credit card? So what are you? You're a deadbeat.
So then we're supposed to take their credit, right? That's what I don't understand. If you're not going to get approved by Citibank, why should I? You know what it is, Howard? They live in scarcity. The doctors live in scarcity. If I let it go, I won't have money coming in. If I let the patient go, he'll go someplace else. He'll never come back, and my doors will close. They live in that scarcity, and then what it does is it creates more financial problems for them than they even understand.
What percent of dentists do you think live in fear and scarcity versus hope, growth, and abundance?
I fear to say at least 75%.
So the 80-20 rule.
Yeah. Yeah, because I know a few that don't live that way, that are moving forward, that are not in that scarcity. I mean, a lot of us do it with our own lives. But once you live in that scarcity, and instead of abundance, and expecting the abundance and expecting people to walk in, that's what causes those doors. Because my dad used to say, if you have a puppy on a leash, and you're pulling the leash, what does it do? It pulls away. When you give it enough leash, what does it do? It always comes back. And when you're pulling onto that patient, that money, all you're doing is scaring them away. And there's so many times I've heard patients say, why are you trying to close me so fast? Why? And because the doctors are so afraid of them walking out the door. You know what? I'll give you payments. How about if you pay me for the next 2 years, we'll charge your credit card $20 a month. And I'm sitting there going, what? What? How are you carrying their debt? Pain pays, like you said. That's their best motivator. And if they cannot afford it, and there have been times that there are patients that just could not afford the dentistry we were doing, and I had to say to them, there's a hospital or a community center down the street that might be best suited for you.
Well, what I think is the bizarrest stat in all of dentistry is that the average American between age 16 and 76 will buy 13 new cars in their lifetime. And the average median price of a new car is $33,500. They'll go finance it for 5 years, 60 months. They'll pay interest rates. And then you go look at the dentist. 95% of dentists will go their entire career without selling one case. That's 33,500. And in every single zip code in America, there's another dentist who only works Monday through Thursday because every Friday is his big case day where he's doing an all-on-4, he's doing a full mouth rehab. And he does a full mouth rehab for $25,000 to $50,000 every Friday, his entire career. And then the 7 other dentists in the medical dental building say, well, there's no money in this town. Nobody has any money. I was just having a dinner at a restaurant in a small town in Kansas, and this dentist was telling me I didn't get it because, he's not in Phoenix. He's in a small town in Kansas, and there's no money. And while he's telling me this at a Mexican restaurant, I point to the 7-Eleven. Well, it was 7-Eleven back there. It's Circle, not even Circle K. It's Quick Trip. It's the PQ, Quick Trip. And I said, how many cars are across the street at Quick Trip? And he looked over and he says, well, there's no cars. There's only trucks. I said, how many trucks? He said 7. They were all Ford 150s to Ford 250s. They were all $40,000 to $95,000 cars. There wasn't a car on the lot that was $30,000 and under, while this guy's telling me there's no money in this small town in Kansas. And it's like, yeah, there's no money because that's what you believe, and we all live in belief systems. I'm going to go back one thing to that statement of cash flow. So the accountant only gives you 3 statements in accounting since the beginning of accounting. He gives you a statement of cash flow, which you'll never get if you're a dentist. I know dentists have used the same accountant for 30 years and don't even know what one is. The other one's a balance sheet. Well, balance your asset equals with what you owe, your liability, minus your equity, and you only use those when you're getting a loan or divorce for, once you need other people's money, your accountant will give you. And then there's the P&L, which dentists think is their accounting report of profit and loss, a statement of income, but that's only your relationship with the third-party tax collector, the IRS, unless you're publicly traded, it's the SEC. But the main thing is cash flow. And when we look at business bankruptcies, most of them are profitable businesses that ran out of cash. Running out of cash is the number one problem of bankruptcy. So, and I can explain it to you real easy. So if your overhead is $1 a month and your patient isn't going to pay you for 3 months, well, your overhead was $1 that month when you do the dentistry. Next month, you'll need to spend $1. The 60-day over, you'll need to spend another $1. The over 90, you have $1. So you'd have to have 4 months of your gross production in your savings account to pay all your bills, rent, mortgage, equipment, labor, malpractice, FICA, to pay all. So what happens is the businesses are profitable. They go like, oh, I did $1 million worth of sales. I sold all these parts for combines. Well, what happened? Well, everybody was paying me 90 to 120 days, and you're so right. After 90 days, only 9% of it's going to come in because people think, well, hell, it's been 3 months. And it also is the number one cause of lawsuits because when someone owes you $1,000 or $5,000, they have 5,000 reasons in their walnut brain to justify whether I'm going to pay. Well, it doesn't fit and it doesn't match and I never liked it and I told you so and I'm going to write all these bad reviews on Yelp and I'm going to file a letter to the Arizona State Board of Dental Examiners and all this bullshit. They come in. They need dentistry. They need a hamburger. That hamburger, it's $3. Give me $3. If you don't have the $3, leave. Right. Give me the $3. We do the hamburger. It's order hamburger, collect money, give them the hamburger. That's what they do at McDonald's. And the dental office that do that, what they'll find is 5% of your practice, 1 in 20, walk because those 1 in 20 never, ever, ever intended to pay you to begin with. And younger dentists, the really good sociopaths, prey on the younger dentists because they know they're young and they're green, and people who really know what they're doing go get the brand new young dentist because they know by the time you're 40, 50, 60, you've been
Right.
stung by so many scorpions you don't fall for that trick. So
Exactly.
young dentists, beware of the professionals.
Right. And they're out there. A couple of weeks ago, working in one of my offices, they did an all on four. And along with the oral surgeon, this was a prosthodontic office, the woman came in and I said, you need to pay us. We've taken the impressions. We're giving you the teeth. You're having your surgery. She's like, oh, well, I was going to pay the oral surgeon. And I'm like, no, we'll collect it here. I'd like it in full. I have insurance. I said, I'm sure they're going to eat it up over there. We'll get it in full. She showed up the morning of and wrote a check. And I thought to myself, guys, I don't know that you should take that check. Guess what? Boing, 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 $30,000. We found her going to other dentists to try and get the rest of it fixed, but she had the teeth. Now there's lawsuits and all pending, but she never had any intention in playing. And guess what? New dentist. Hasn't been open a year.
Yeah.
So you never would, and I'm like, this is a pro. They're out there.
So let's talk about that. There's the God, Ryan. Who's the number one plastic surgeon? It's Larry. What's the guy's name?
In New York?
No, in Phoenix. It's Larry. He's a guy from New York. It's Larry.
I don't know.
Gosh darn. But anyway, one of my buddies. I can't. I just know him by Larry. But anyway, he's a big he's the best plastic person. And
Body by Leverett? Is that it?
no, that's Awatuki. He's
There's a Larry Leverett, Phoenix Plastic Surgery.
Yeah, I said. But anyway, here let me. Larry, plastic surgeon. And by the way, he did not do my face. My face is all natural. Everyone thinks I had surgery, and that's not true. Don't spread those rumors.
You might want to have to keep his number.
Phoenix, Arizona. Gosh. But anyway. Oh my God. Yeah, there he is. Lawrence Shaw, MD, FACS. Best one ever. Love this guy. I didn't know his name was Lawrence. I used to call him Larry. But Larry, you have to pay for the appointment to schedule.
Yes.
And if you know, because the reason he's the best is because he's not on a treadmill. He sees one patient in the morning and he sees one patient afternoon. So if Nancy wants to have, you know what the number one cosmetic surgery is in America? It's embarrassing to say. You know what it is?
No.
It's eyelid surgery.
Oh, eyelids? Okay.
I've never, ever looked at a woman in my life and thought something was right or wrong with her eyelids. I mean, I don't even know how you could improve or harm your eyelids. I mean, they're flipping eyelids. I mean, what are they going to do next? Pupil surgery? Yeah, her pupils were only 4 millimeters, and we augmented them to 8. But anyway, so he says, look, the reason I'm good is because I'm an artist, and I want to be able to spend the whole morning on your face.
Right.
So you give him, you have to give him the money, and then the money, if you want that appointment booked today, you got to give him a certified check.
Right.
If you give him a check, your appointment is still open for anyone else until your check clears.
Right.
And these are the guys that rise to the top of the food chain. They don't play that. I'm going to get on a treadmill and try to do 4 surgeries a day, and then some aren't going to turn out right because I ran out of time and I had to botch this surgery. I didn't have time to do it right, and then she didn't pay. And then, blah, 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 blah. By the way, it's over 90% of all plastic surgeries are women.
Oh, well, that's not surprising.
Yeah.
Not surprising. We're more vain than y'all are.
Yeah, a lot of people ask me if I'm going to get a hair transplant, so they don't realize that I'm actually not naturally bald. I shave my head because when I let my hair grow, everyone thinks I'm Brad Pitt, and it's so annoying.
That's so annoying.
So I just shave my head, and then they don't confuse me. But so let's go to the next topic. You talked about accounts receivable. Here's where the team sucks. They never know that the fish rots from the head down. And if you have a bunch of people that are crazy, I mean, it means the leader of the team is crazy. But here's the problem. It's natural selection. You can't get into med school, dent school, law school unless you get straight A's in calculus and physics and geometry and all this stuff. So what do you get? You don't get the well-rounded kid who's in a fraternity, had a girlfriend, went out 3 nights a week and saw all the top hit movies. You get that flippin' psycho, me, who sat in the library for years where every night you heard the same thing every single night. ting, the library will be closing in 10 minutes. So now you have this natural selection,
Right.
and everybody that comes out is this scientist, engineer, geek from the library, and now he's got to, and he'll even tell you, oh, I'm not going to sell dentistry. They couldn't have a staff meeting. They don't know HR. How do you attract, retain, and lead patients that stay? Because I mean, you have nothing to work with. It's kind of like let's say Nancy Zelno had a singing institute, but the only
Yes.
people that showed up for her services couldn't sing.
Right. Then you're in trouble. You
Well,
teach them.
that's what you are. That's why you're in trouble if you go into HR for dentists, physicians, or lawyers, because you have people naturally selected against all social skills. I mean, usually when a dentist, physician, or lawyer takes a personality test, it comes back blank.
Or insane. Right. And you know what? Finding the right team and the way that I tell my dentists, see how many times a person smiles. Out of your entire interview, the one thing you should pay attention to, because if I say to you, do you know Dentrix? Yes, I know Dentrix. They don't ask the right questions. They ask yes or no questions instead of saying to them, what would you do if? How would you handle this? So, and counting how many times they smile. You know, Nordstrom's is known for their customer service. And when they were out on, you know, they tried to put some of the customer service lead people out into the speaking environment, how to build great customer service. And they said no, because the only thing we do is see how many times a person smiles. We can teach the skills. We can't teach nice. The problem is when the doctor's not nice and they finally do get a good team and then they leave because the doctor doesn't know how to, like you said, motivate them and retain them. So they may have a dream team, but they don't know how to maintain it. So a lot of times when they come to me and they say, my team's insane, like you said, it's the trickle effect. You know, it only rolls downhill so fast. So we have to look at also their interactions together, their communications, and you can't always just be yourself. Sometimes you just can't. Because like you said, you don't have the right social skills to handle people the way they need to be. Did you ever see that movie, The Devil Wears Prada?
Yes. Who's that lady that started that? Meryl Streep?
Meryl Streep.
I have two favorite actors in the world. It's Meryl Streep, and then who's the other one I like? Kathy Bates.
Oh, Kathy Bates. Yeah,
What
yeah.
I love about Kathy Bates and Meryl Streep is their interviews to where there's only like 6 guys that have ever made more than 50 movies in their life, and most of them are dead. But one of them is who's the producer? He did I think he did Apocalypse Now. Oliver Stone.
Yeah.
Oliver Stone. He calls it utility. He says you can give those 2 girls any part, anything in the world, and they'll do it. So many other actresses, they only play this type of a person.
Right.
Or, you know, some of these famous movie stars, if you look at them, like every role, they had the same personality.
Right.
But you can tell those 2 to be psycho, murderers, lovers. I mean, you just tell them what you need, and they deliver. And it's just amazing how they can just take the part. I just love those 2. They're my 2 favorite, I would say, actors. I wouldn't even call them actresses because it doesn't matter if they're boys or girls because they're just my 2 favorite.
They're awesome. So the Devil Wears Prada movie, I had a personal assistant at the time, and I said to her, we need to go see this movie. So she had said to me, we went together, and I kept leaning over and going, I don't do that, do I? She's like, yes. And then I lean over again. I'm like, I don't do that to you, do I? She's like, yes. She says to me, the day you come in and throw your coat on my desk, I'm leaving. And it had this reality of like, I'm in my world and I'm doing my work as I need to do it. And I didn't realize how I was affecting it on her. Now, she was a great person. She could laugh it off and she would tell me when I'm being that way. But you can't be that way in a dental practice when we were one-on-one, so we were good friends and we were able to do it. But dentists don't understand that there is a responsibility of being the boss as well. You can't walk in the door 10 minutes after your patient's in the chair and expect all your team to be on time because you're leading by example. So maintaining that team, even though they may find the perfect team, if they're lucky, because most of them don't have the skills to find them, how do they maintain it? I mean, it's such a small community. How many times do we hear this dental assistant is over here now and that office manager is here? Oh, yeah, I know her. She used to be with Dr. So-and-so. It's a small community because we have this specialized skill. If you ever were an office manager and you tried to go outside of medical and dental and go to construction, they're not even going to look at you because it's a specialized, a specialized industry. So the dentists, their problem is learning how to maintain and motivate those people too. Not all. There are some dentists out there that do a really great job with their team, but for the most part, and I love it when a dentist says to me, I have a dream team, except maybe one or two. So that's good, right? No, that's not a dream team. You have one or two that's infecting everybody else. You have to find the way to get to the right team.
So, if someone's new, I understand that, it's like when some kid starts crying in an airplane, the guy next to you starts getting upset. I always turn to him and say, dude, how old were you when you were born?
Right.
I mean, were you born 25? I'm pretty sure you were the same baby crying in an airplane. Just, it's all you, buddy. It's not the baby. But the bottom line is, with staff training, I don't even believe in staff training because it all comes down to attracting and retaining staff. Once your staff has been there 2, 3, 5, 10, 20 years, they're going to learn. I mean, next month, I got a whole slew of people that have been with me 20 years. My Lori, my Stacy, my Ken, my Dawn, my Tom. I mean, I got all these people that have been 20 years. Well, you know how you do staff training? You keep people for a long time. When someone's been on your team 5, 10, 15, 20 years, you don't have to manage them. Like so many people ask me, well, how do I do all this? Well, I do all this because I don't do any of it. I got a bunch of people that do it all. But what I get rid of right out of the gate is toxic, moody.
Yes.
People, and it's sad because I think a lot of it's just inherent biology. I mean, like bipolar. I mean, they come in one day, they're all up and lovey, and the next day they're down and pissy. And that person that every single time you meet with them, you're meeting the same person. Right. You build a team with a bunch of functional people that you're running red lights to go to work. I have to get to work early because I just want to go shoot the shit with all my buddies. Yoni, what up? Well, what would you do this with? You want to see your buddies. And then there's dentists that are driving to work that are avoiding their own hygienist because they hate her. It's like, what do you mean? You don't ever give money to someone you hate. You have to build a functional team. And that person you hate, it might not, it might be right or wrong. I've noticed that some dental offices, they're all into country music and bowling. And then other movies are all into rock deals. I mean, so you have your culture. And it doesn't matter. It's not really so much right or wrong. It's just, do you 5 people like playing in the sandbox together? I don't care if you want to be the dump truck and I'm the cement truck and you're the bulldozer. I don't really care. But if you can't build a team where everybody wants to play, but what happens when you go into dental offices? 80% of the dentists, when they get done doing that root canal, they beeline straight back to their private office and shut the door. It's like, well, God. And now we're watching the NBA Finals. Where is the coach during the entire NBA Finals game? On the sideline, screaming, yelling, rotating players in and out. And then what do you do when you're done with the root canal? Hell, you don't even walk the patient to the front. You don't even shake hands with the next patient coming in. You don't even ask your team what's up. You beeline it. I mean, imagine what would happen to an NBA coach if halfway through the game he said, screw this, and went to his private office and shut the door.
Right. It's funny you say that because I had an office that I started with, very small. They'd been at this practice for about 8 years. They said to me, I can't hit $1 million. Small, 3 operatories, 1 hygienist, can't hit $1 million. When I came in, we ended up redoing their team. We got a new hygienist, a new dental assistant, a person at the front desk. And that was one of the things I said to the doctor. I need you to greet new patients as they come in at the front desk. I need you to walk them out to the front when you're done. He goes, I have to walk them out? I'm like, yeah, they're your patients. You did the work. I need you to walk them out, hand them off to the front desk. He's like, all right. He was great at it. They got this whole communication team thing down. They texted me the New Year's Day the following year saying that not only did they make $1 million the first year that they worked with us, but they were up and over, and there's still time in their schedule to put more patients. And they said that they didn't think it would happen, but because the doctor is more hands-on, not a micromanager, but he was hands-on with his team and working together as his team. He was even, taking care of cleaning some of the instruments. That's where they started that cohesiveness. That team wanted to play together, and they played together, and they got things done, and their day moved quicker,
So when we were talking about movie stars, I got off on a tangent. We were talking about Meryl Streep and Kathy Bates. I mean, that's what you got to think when you're going into your office and you're an introvert geek and you're going to go in there and you park your car. And I don't care what you have to do. If you have to look in the mirror, put on your lipstick, or whatever you got to do. But when you go in there, you're now the leader. It's the same thing with presenting treatment. You talked earlier about this dentist telling you he's a new patient. You're like, dude, you got 40 patients, only 5 of them scheduled for a recall, only 5. And then you tell me that you don't like to sell dentistry. Okay,
Right.
so now you're going to have a lousy office the rest of life because life is a mindset. Life is an attitude. Your attitude determines your altitude. And you've already decided you don't like to sell. Instead of deciding, Kathy Bates really isn't a psychotic nurse who found a guy who drove off a car and drug him back to her home and beat his kneecaps in.
Right.
So any more than you walk in there, and now I got a patient there. Her name's Nancy Zelno, and she needs this $25,000 all-on-4 dental deal. And you're going to walk in there, and you're going to put on your "I can do it" face, and you're going to walk in there, and you're going to be something that you're not natural. And you're going to go in there, and you're going to give a rocking hot presentation treatment plan, and you're going to measure it, and you're going to measure your close, and at the end of the month, every orthodontist knows how many leads were served up and how many closed. So and some orthodontists, they all want to close 15 cases a month, like Invisalign or whatever, 6,500 a piece. Some of them need 30 leads to close 15.
Yes.
There are orthodontists who need only 16 or 17 leads to close 15. And then the other thing I want to say is that some orthodontists, usually within 2 or 3 hours, because I think the orthodontists get it more than anyone else, because a lot of dentists, a new patient is a clean exam and X-ray, and that's it, or maybe one filling. A lot of new patients are not even $450.
Right.
But everyone is an orthodontist $6,500, so they take it damn serious. But what do a lot of the orthodontists do? They figure 2 years in, they say, well, I'm the dentist, I'm the provider, but my office manager, Nancy Zelno, does it better. And within 2 years, they say, you know what? You're going to do the treatment plan presentation because I'm not good at it. Same thing with HR. I'll go into a dental office, and this poor bastard is miserable, and he's had 10, 15, 20 years of massive staff turnover and dysfunction, all stuff. And I say, well, who hired all these people?
Right.
And he says, I did. I said, well, if you worked for the Arizona Cardinals and you were a scout, you would have been fired 18 years ago because every person you pick can't catch a ball. So why can't you find out maybe your dental assistant? I thought I was the best HR guy in the world till I hired Lori. And then Lori, every time I was hiring someone, she was telling me the whole time why that was a crazy mistake. And then it only took about a year or two to realize, wow, Lori calls every one of these crazy people the day I hire them. So I quit doing it. I was good. Yeah. Lori was 10x. She was 10 times better. So if you can't pick people, pick someone that can pick people. Just like the owner of all these football teams. Like you're down there in Clearwater, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I doubt the owner of the Buccaneers has ever hired one player in the last 5 years. He has professional scouts to do that.
That's right. And you know what? That's what I was, we try to say to them. I have an office that we worked in, and I was with them for just a few months, and I would go in every week. I started going in there twice a week because they needed so much help. And there was not one person that worked their front desk. This is on my honor. They did not last a week. Every single person for about 3 months that I would come in the office, she had somebody new at the front desk. And I said to her, who's hiring these people? She goes, well, I am. And I said, do we see the common denominator here? I said, you have got to get somebody to help you hire these people. Don't hire them until you talk to me, please. Because you're right. They know their dentistry. They don't know these things. I used to have a dental assistant that would talk to the dentist, and they would be like, okay, you know what? I researched this person that you want to hire. I went on her Facebook. I went on the judicial website. I went on this. She goes, this is what I can tell you about that person. So, some people are better at it than you, but it's hard. Why is it so hard for dentists to admit that they're not so great at something? Like a lot of people
Another
won't
one,
come
another
out.
one. I can't tell you how many people, this is what's really sad. They find out they were being embezzled from. And by the time they find out, it's been 5 years, but then they find out that she did it she's in Arizona and that she did it in Florida and was
Yeah,
arrested for it and went
right,
to jail for 12 months. Like, so you hired a girl from Florida who did this, got arrested, went to jail,
right.
and now you're shocked that she did it for you. I mean, could you imagine me hiring you, Nancy, as the starting quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals? Then after the first game, we find out she never played high school football, let alone
Right.
college football. And everybody would be like, where the hell did you find that lady? Oh, it was like when you're hiring ex-felons from another state, I
Yeah.
mean, that is crazy.
But that's one of the things. I did a big speech for it's a medical company called Plaintree, and they did a big conference in Baltimore last year, and they wanted me to come in and teach how to hire and motivate a team. And one of the things I said was, "Are you going to check their references?" And they're all like, "Oh yeah, we check references." And I go, "Why?" They're going to give you friends and people they know that are going to say nice things. Go to the judicial website. Go and look up on their Facebook, Instagram, and anything else that you can see them being themselves. And that's going to give you a better idea. But they were shocked. I said, the judicial websites in those states, that is all common knowledge. There's no hold barred. You can find out whatever you need to know. That's one of the
I want to ask you another question. I want to go back to this guy was getting 45 new patients a month, and he tells you he needs more new patients. I always tell people the number one business you never ever go into is marketing, advertising for dental office to get them new patients. Because because you're going to fail every time because the dentist doesn't know what's going on, and that is what we know is about 300. It's the funnel. 300 people have to land on the average dentist website before 9 call. 9
right,
people have to call before your untrained receptionist can convert 3 to come in. 3 people
right,
have to come in that each have one cavity before one of those converts to do a filling. So when you
right,
look at that filling, the average dental office is taking home $174,000 on sales of $750. But to do that $750,000 of dentistry in fillings and crowns and root canals, to do 750, another $1,500,000 had to come in.
right,
I mean, $1,500,000 worth of disease had to come in and not schedule for you to do 750. So to do that one filling, 3 had to come in. For 3 to come in, 9 had to call. For 9 to call, 300 had to land on your website. And then while you 7 dentists are all saying that the sky is falling and it all has to do with Putin and Russia and North Korea and Trump and everything but that, then the guy at the end every Friday is doing a full mouth rehab for the
right.
price of a new car. So back to that funnel. How can you fix anything on that funnel to where this guy doesn't realize it's not a new patient problems? It's your treatment plan presentation sucks and you don't measure it. The girls answering your phone aren't trained. I mean, you call up most dental offices and say, "Hey Nancy, how much is a crown? $1,000. Okay, thank you very much." Well, did you get her name or phone number? Did you try to convert her? I mean, I mean, so what would you fix on that funnel?
Well, first of all, on that funnel, what we do is we track by hand, because it's the only way you do it. Once they come in, who's referring them? Do they do a cleaning? Do they do a recall? Did we present treatment? How much did you present? How much did they do or schedule to do? So we need to know, out of those 9 that you say make it into the office, how do we get those 9 to stay? Out of those 40, like I said, the majority of them weren't staying. They weren't doing their work. They weren't presenting. So the first month that we worked with them, they were doing an average, and I ran all their numbers for the year before. $90,000 a month was their average production. Okay, we didn't know what they were presenting because nobody tracked it. That's the only way to do it. Got to track it by hand. So out of that, the very first month that we were there, I took those 40 new patients, showed them how to convert them to getting in the door. We did 125. It's not bad for the first month. It's a nice increase. The second month, we did 150. The next month we did 160, and they maintained between that 150 and 160. That's a big jump for a dental practice. But they were getting those 43 at the end of this first month, those 43 new patients. We only had 5 missing their recall appointment. Some of them were referred in by other offices, so we didn't want to take up their hygiene. You know, they go back to their other offices. And some of them were, because being down here in Florida, sometimes we get transients, people that are just passing through on vacation. But they were keeping those patients. They were doing their work because they, back it up, had to find out how to present treatment. And that's where they were failing. That 300 that land on your website, I couldn't even tell you. I'm not the marketing person to say, how do I get those 300 to call me? Because I'm not a website marketing person, and I wouldn't try to be. My job is, when those people get to my phone, from the initial phone call, how do we handle them? Now, we recorded all their voice, everything in and out, to be able to say, where are they failing, where are they doing well. Once we would train them, they were afraid to say the wrong thing. They actually paid attention to it and smiled and welcomed people to the practice. But otherwise, like you said, exactly the right thing. And you know where they were getting the dentist ended up being friended on this mommy's Facebook. It was a female dentist. So those patients that are coming in have already built trust. They already trust this woman because all these moms are talking about how they take good care of not just their kids, but their teeth. So that's a big factor when they walk in the door, is how do we get them to trust us? They have to trust us from the beginning. And I don't know if back in the day when they started talking about, dental website, got to have a great website. I always said, I don't have people that find the website that call me. I have people that look at my website after they've called me. But now with Google, we're finding a lot more people are hitting those websites and calling off of it or sending messages from there. And I don't think the websites, Howard, I think it's more the reviews.
Your website is dynamicadministrators.com. What are my homies going to find if they go to dynamicadministrators.com?
They're going to tell a little bit about the industry. It's going to tell you about us and the different services that we have. It's going to also give you my speaker packet because I do speak at a lot of different places. And I've had offices hire me just to speak at their office. But it's, on the website, as far as different things that they can do, they're more than welcome to call me. I'm always available to help them walk through. I always offer a complimentary practice analysis. They can sit with me on the phone for an hour. I can sit down and go through some numbers and some different things that they have, and I can say to them at the end, I can send them out a proposal with some information of what they could do, some freebies. You guys need to work on
How does that work? How do they get the free consultation? Do they go to your website? Do they email you? How do they contact you? Because I know my homies. Here's how my homies work. They all have this unique problem that you don't understand because it's my office and you don't understand my office manager, and you're from Florida and I'm from Lyons, Kansas, and they all have this totally unique problem that everybody in the business heard 100,000 million trillion times. But how do they call you up and tell you about their unique dilemma that's not unique?
Okay, so they can call my cell directly. I don't put up any fronts. They can call me directly at 203-558-9664. That's my direct cell phone line.
Wait, say it again.
203 558 9664.
9664.
Right. Because I'm a transplanted New Yorker too, by the way.
And if my homies are listening to this and right now they're in a bathroom at 7-Eleven, are they allowed to write it on the wall?
It depends on what state. No,
her number is 203, cell phone, 203-558-9664. Her website is dynamicadministrators.com. What about email?
Nancy at nancyzelno.com, or they can do Nancy at dynamicadministrators.com.
So homies, this is what I'm telling you. I understand boys and their toys. I get it. I understand that you only live once, and if you want to keep my 4 boys in the bathtub when they were little, if I put my 4 boys in the bathtub and there's nothing in there, they'd all be out before I get the last one in. But if I filled it up with boats and balls and even the sandbox toys, they even like their dump trucks in the bathtub. And so I understand lasers and CAD cam and I understand all that stuff, but that has nothing to do with business. If you think you're going to be a millionaire because you're going to switch from polyvinyl siloxane to an oral scanner from 3Shape and start chairside milling your crowns and buy a laser. You are completely out of your mind. What I've been telling you to do for 30 years, first, the only return on investment is practice management consultants. I don't care who you get. I don't care if you get Nancy. I don't care who you get, because all of my 55-year-old friends who are grandpas who've been in it 30 years, over the 30 years, they've had damn near every consultant you can name, because they've never brought in a consultant and didn't give her a bunch of money, and at the end of the year, get all that money back and more money. So what you do is you get your business poised for growth. And where does the Dentist Society is going to go cheap? Not on the private dental school that you paid $100,000 a year for and comes out $400,000 debt. Where are they going to go cheap? Oh, not on a chairside milling machine they paid $150, or a CVCT $100, or some Millennium laser for $87 to $135. Oh no, they never go cheap there. Where do they go cheap? On practice management consultant. Their overhead's out of control. They don't have any business systems, and that's what drives them crazy. I tell people, you know what the litmus test is if you want to buy a laser? Write a check for it. You want to buy a Porsche? If you can write a check for that little Porsche, go get the Porsche. Go buy it. And you should look at chairside milling just like a Porsche or a fishing mill. I'll tell you what, you got to do more consulting in Louisiana. Most of these dentists, the highest price toy they have in their office is like a $200,000 bass boat. I mean, it's unbelievable. And it's so cool. One of these guys, we were out there fishing in the Gulf, and I said, dude, you dropped 200 on a bass boat? And he goes, well, it was either going to be that or a Cerac machine. And I chose the boat. But the point is, he has a rocking hot business. Right. You know, and he's brought in 3 or 4 or 5 consultants over the years. I tell people, get your house in order, get your debt under control, live below your means, invest in practice management consultants, and then when you're rich, I don't care what you buy. I don't care if it's a cabin, a boat, an oral scanner. Just business is business, and you don't need any technology for your craft. What you need to do is get your business in order, and once your debt's going down and your income's going up and your 401k is fully funded, guess what? A lot of your burnout, disease, depression, all that kind of goes by the wayside.
Yeah. One of the other things that we do too is we do a coach on call, where I guarantee a phone call back before the end of the day with if they have any issues that they need handled over the phone, be it team members, be it, hey, I had this patient come in, how can I present it? Whatever it is, we guarantee a phone call back at the end of the day. And at the end of the month, they actually get a listing of all the different items that their whole team is available to us. We're available to the whole team. They can call us and we can say, these are the different items that you guys had come down during the month. So if it's not somebody that wants to jump in and change their entire practice, which we don't do, we take step by step. But if it's somebody that says, you know what, I just need somebody there to bounce things off of, we're there as well. And sometimes they can start that way. And sometimes they want to, do the practice management that needs to be done.
So again, homies, get your house in order, get your business under control. And another thing, dentistry is such a small world. How long have you been in this consulting business?
18 years.
Yeah, you can't be in dentistry consulting for 18 years because everybody you consult with didn't like you and it didn't work and whatever. I mean, just get your house in order. You have no training in business, finance, marketing, your funnel. You only know your office. How many offices have you actually been inside and digested?
Over hundreds.
Yeah. So you're living in your little bubble.
Right.
And there's people out there who have seen 100 different bubbles. And guess what? You're all the same. You're all the same.
I've been in the medical too, and it's still all the same. They're not unique.
Well, physicians and dentists and lawyers, that's cut from the same cloth. I mean, that's 3 pods in the same pea. I mean, it's the same thing. I have flown so much. 3 times I have sat by a U.S. Senator, and I'm not going to say their names, McCain twice, and Graham from Graham-Redmond once. But what was most shocking to me is that they were just dentists. I mean, these guys were some of the most powerful people in the world, but like dentists, and I absolutely asked them, I said, accountants only give you 3 statements. Can you name them? No. Okay, they're a statement of cash flow, a balance sheet, a P&L. Can you just tell me the difference between those 3 statements? They can't.
No.
And that's why we're $19 trillion in debt. That's
Yeah.
why we have 56 trillion of unfunded liabilities, and that's why you're not rich. That's why you're a doctor in the richest country in the world, and you're broke because you
Right.
don't know what you're doing. So call people like Nancy. They make a living out of helping people like you. Nancy, it was just a huge honor that you decided to give an hour of your life today.
I appreciate
Ryan pushed out your manual
Excellent.
on Dental Town, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, all that kind of stuff. Thank you so much for all that you're doing for my homies, and I hope you have a rocking hot day.
All right. Thank you. You too. Take care.
But remember, when the Tampa Bay Buccaneers do play the Cardinals, I only wish the worst for you.
That's okay. I'm all about the Lightning instead of the Buccaneers.
Okay. Have a great day.